All right, welcome back to another interview in the Missionaries, Moms, and Mondays. This one is supporting our episode 3, where we talked a lot about physiology and how big a deal taking care of our body is, the self care, the ability to focus on our physical body as a way, as a vehicle, really, to emotional health. And today we get to interview Sandi Hughes. Sandi is just a dear friend of mine, a mentor, someone who has truly helped me recognize power in my own physical body. So, Sandi, I'm so glad to have you. Will you tell everybody a little bit about yourself so they know who they're having the privilege of hearing from today?
Yes, I'm so excited to be here and to be able to talk about our bodies and some of the practical application that we can offer for to help our missionaries. I was a missionary in Brazil 30 years ago, and so I have some understanding about the challenges, and I know that there's even more challenges. I have sons and a daughter that have also served missions, and now daughter-in-laws and son-in-law that have served missions. So, and all of them have had, I would say every missionary has concerns around their physical well being and their physical body leaving for a mission. And it's hard to know how to navigate. So I'm really excited to talk about that.
Perfect. Well, we're going to dive right in. We've got a lot of moms asking questions, and the real questions they're asking is just tangible solutions. So we're gonna cover 4 topics today. We're going to cover sleep, hydration, nutrition, and movement, and just give ideas. And since you are the woman full of ideas on these things, I can't wait to hear your wisdom and counsel on this, and just giving them a lot of practical examples of things they can use. So, sleep, we know how critical sleep is. We know that sleep affects emotions in such a significant way. So, we find out our missionary is not sleeping. Sandi, what can we do? How can we help?
Super, probably common issue with missionaries. I would say the very first thing I would do is ask questions so that you can have a better understanding as to maybe why that is happening and help them to understand your missionaries to come to understanding of some things they can try to navigate that a little bit better. I'd ask some questions, first of all, about nighttime routine. Like, what does your night look like? What is your apartment like? Is there a way that you can prepare your body for sleep before you actually have to get into bed? And that can come in just really simple routines at night of like turning down the light so that your hormones can start to shift into producing a little more melatonin and getting like slowing down a little bit. Um, Finding out if they have time to at night to get like their thoughts out, to maybe shut down the day either with I think maybe one of the very best tools with that is to be able to write down all the concerns and things that are on their mind or make lists for things so that it's getting out of their head and onto paper so that they can maybe like turn their mind off so that they can relax to go to sleep. And we won't know what the problem is if we don't ask the questions of like, do you find it difficult to fall asleep because your mind is racing? Do you feel like your heart is racing?
Mm.
Like ask about some of their physical symptoms as well as like their physical space that they're set up for. Maybe it's just not comfortable. Um, so that would be kind of where I start, and then maybe I would go into nutrition for the day. What is your daily? Just have them take you through their day. What does it look like? What does your morning routine look like? And just get really curious about like how those things look for them. Are they waking up and are they able, do they have the ability to go outside and get a little morning light for 5 or 10 minutes in the morning to kind of reset their circadian rhythm? Maybe they're in a new part of the world and their body clock is just a little off and they need to have a reset with that. Do they have a morning exercise routine that can kind of expend some energy in the morning that can help them then rest at night? A lot of times, what's happening at night is actually a product of morning. And so, if we can look at both ends of that day and get curious about both of those and see, and then any kind of like a huge stressor for missionaries is food. And so being able to say, are you eating enough throughout the day? And I don't think you need to get super specific, just like, are you able to eat throughout the day and get enough calories? Because sometimes our sleep will be disrupted if our body is in under so much stress because we're not getting enough food for it to relax and calm down. And maybe they're eating too much at night. And so their body also is having a hard time metabolizing everything, and it's staying in this mode of metabolizing food, which gives you energy, instead of going into rest and digest so that they can like relax and do. So after
Mm.
asking some of those questions, it might help you pinpoint some ideas for your missionary to just say, okay, maybe we could try doing this. Does that feel doable to be able to get morning light in your eyes, say? And maybe just give them one or two of those really simple ideas to try for the week, and see, come back and check in and see if they, what they noticed. And I like to always approach everything as kind of just an experiment of like, your body's super adaptable. I would just speak a lot of confidence in their body's ability to like take what it is, has and use it. And so just speak a lot of confidence to them of like, you're doing great and we'll figure this out. And, you know, this is just a little part of your mission. Don't, because the stress of not being able to sleep most of the time is what is causing people to then not sleep because they're stressing so much about like, I just have to go to sleep if I could just go to sleep. And so just let their mind relax. Something that is scientifically proven is deep rest to also rejuvenate our bodies. So even if they're not sleeping, if you can have them just relax all the muscles in their body when they lay in bed and just focus on their breathing and just taking deep breaths. And if something feels like it's starting to tense, just like practice breathing that out and relaxing. And they'll do that most of the time, they'll fall asleep doing that when they get relaxed. And even if they don't fall asleep, if they stay in that relaxed state of just practicing relaxing, their body will go into rest and digest and they will feel better than if they're stressing
Mm.
about not sleeping. So there's options for that. Also, keep in mind patterns. We're just setting patterns. And if our missionaries have had a pattern of not sleeping before their mission, or really sporadic sleep schedules, or really, really common is like they've gone, they're teenagers and they go to bed really late and then they get sleep in, and that's become a pattern that their body is familiar with. Your body loves a good pattern and it will try to go to that pattern, and it might be hard to fall asleep and to switch up that pattern, and not impossible.
Yeah, so many good, just practical examples of things that can be done for sleep. And I love the idea of what you said, just continue to breed confidence into them. So much of what we see with our missionaries is anytime there's a struggle, there's stress over the struggle. And the stress of the struggle magnifies the stress, right? And
Yeah.
so just recognizing, hey, the body's loves patterns. We've been in a pattern for a long time. We have a lot of tools here. So let's experiment with one at a time. We got 15 options. One of them's destined to work. Just giving the confidence that there's a lot of things that we can try. And I love some of the things that you said. Write down the things that you're feeling and get the thoughts out. Deep breathing so that we're starting to bring the body into a state of rest, turning the lights off earlier, checking what you're eating, maybe eating, stopping the eating earlier in the night. A couple of other things, caffeine consumption. We know sometimes they're consuming caffeine. We can get aware of that and say maybe we make sure we're not consuming caffeine after a certain point of the day. And we just
Yeah.
experiment, like you said, with the like maybe not 3 o'clock, then 2 o'clock, then 1 o'clock, and we figure out where do I need to stop consuming caffeine in order to get to sleep. And this is really important because it ends up being a chicken and an egg situation. They're not sleeping, so they're exhausted, so they consume caffeine, and then the caffeine doesn't let them sleep. And so that ability to just experiment
Yeah.
with this is
And
incredibly helpful. I think those are
I always
great
hesitate
ideas.
to demonize any of those things if they're working for them in some way. And so I, again, I
Hmm.
just ask questions about that and get curious, and then just maybe some suggestions or ask them what they think they could do. Because often intuitively they know that, oh, well, I could do this different. And they're usually right with themselves. With caffeine, if they could wait until after they've eaten something to consume caffeine, that will help their
Mm,
system a lot. And then, like you said, then have a cutoff time in the afternoon where they don't have caffeine after a certain point of that. That also can greatly help them to regulate their sleep patterns a little bit more. And then
yeah.
changing your temperature, making sure your temperature. I know where I served in Brazil, it was so hot. It was really hard to
Mm,
sleep. So getting a fan, taking a shower to like get your body temperature to kind of come down, or if you're in a cold place, taking a really hot bath sounds like, oh, well, if you're overheated, you want to be in a cooler, but your body then will drop its temperature down and you'll sleep
mm,
better. It will make you more tired. A warm drink can help before it just feels soothing. So looking at like rituals, things, and maybe if they have things that have worked in the past for them as far as habits and rituals go that have helped them to feel calm and to be able to shut down to go to sleep at night. And
mm.
so I think just addressing, validating some of those very real concerns for them can help them just kind of relax and sleep a little better.
Yeah. I love that you brought up the idea of patterns and rituals as the nighttime. I was working with a sister missionary and she had a very, really struggling to sleep, but she had a very specific pattern when she was at home of she would go into the bathroom, she would wash her face, then she would apply some cream, and she had these four or five things that she did for self-care. When she left on her mission, she didn't have enough time at night to do those things. And she was missing three or four of these kind of key ingredients. And so we actually designed a pattern or a routine for her nighttime process that went faster, did not need those same things, and it still mimicked a similar feeling for her in this
Yes.
pattern. And it almost immediately solved her need for sleep. So I love that you bring that up. So many great examples. Ladies, always pay attention to the curiosity. We ask with curiosity, not judgment. We experiment with curiosity, and we really just engage always with optimism and hope and lists of possible solutions, right? So many things we can do. Let's dive
Yeah.
into hydration. Hydration's super important again, as we know. And what happens on the mission is between a lack of safe drinking water in so many of the areas that they serve in, on top of a lot of times they're at meals or member meals and they're getting served a lot of juice and a lot of soda. With those dynamics, how do our missionaries best take care of themselves with hydration? What are some ideas?
Great. Okay, I did hear that about electrolytes, and that is really important, and especially for missionaries where they're sweating, they're walking, they're physical, they're stressed all day. If they don't have access to that, any kind of natural salt that they could even just put it under their tongue once a day or twice a day will serve as an electrolyte and also give them that same kind of benefit that they could get from drinking like a store-bought electrolyte. So Celtic salt, sea
Interesting,
salt, any of those, not table salt. That one won't work, but the other salts
right?
will.
So just
So
putting some on us, does it work if I don't have access to the electrolytes that I can drink? Does it work if I put a lot of salt on something? I had a mom ask me, she said, I've always loved salted apples. If I over salt an apple and then consume the salt with that, does it
yeah,
do the same thing?
it does. If it's a quality salt, and I would say most areas have access to those kinds of things. And probably most people in those areas cook with those kinds of things. So, yeah, but that could be a little addition to their water. They also have really amazing water bottles that you can send with your missionary that have a filtration system in them. That even if they don't
Mhm.
have clean water or they have to filter their water, and it takes a while to filter for it to drip through the filter. Maybe things have
Right.
changed since I was on mission, but it was maddening.
A little
Just
bit. Technology has advanced, a little bit, right?
oh,
But in
but
that
those
in that same thought, so many moms that watch what we're doing here and they're like, How did I not see this before my missionary went out?" So I want to address two things. One, If your missionary hasn't gone out, water filtration bottle, putting some electrolyte pills like some Relight or some stick packs like some LMNT in their bag and sending it with them, really valuable. Shipping
Yeah.
them a package afterwards, really valuable. If your missionary's in a place where you can't ship the package, things like using salts in the
Yeah.
area will get this done.
Yeah.
What else besides salt? If I can't ship a water filtration bottle and I can't get a package to my missionary with some form of electrolytes, any other ideas aside from
Yeah.
kind of
Again,
consuming that salt?
I would ask them a lot of questions again about that if they have
Mhm.
access to buying water, because they may have access to buying water and they don't want to spend their money on water because they don't
Right.
have a lot of money. So ask about that. And then I would also, there is like the juices that they're being served. There's benefit. They are full of sugar. They're delicious. They're full of sugar. They have a lot of water content in them. And so there is comfort in knowing that they won't get dehydrated even if they're drinking the juices there. They're just going to look for as many opportunities as they can to drink whatever they can when they can, because they won't have access sometimes when they're out on the doors. Even if I know my boys, they don't like carrying the water with them. Like they're already carrying books,
Mm.
they don't have to carry water. So they're dependent on the people they're going to the doors to get water, and they'll ask for water at doors or different places. And so that could be something you could address and talk to them about. Like if are they asking the people that they're going to for water? Will they carry the water with them? Even if you send them a bottle, are they going to carry it?
That is a really great point, is that sometimes they even if they have access to water or a water filtration, they don't wanna take it with them. I've found that the elders and sisters that I'm working with, their behavior won't change until it becomes important to them.
Yeah,
And so a lot of times it's not important to them until they've connected the dots that this is the difference between me feeling good or not. So let's
yeah.
say we're trying to identify whether hydration is playing a role in how they're feeling. How might somebody know if I am dehydrated? Like, what would I be looking for to know if hydration is part of my solution?
I would say any physical symptom that they're coming up with, if they're having headaches, if they're having stomach issues, really a lot of the stomach issues come from water, but they come from a lack of water, I would say more so than drinking the water. And so I would look at like
Mm.
any kind of gut issues, especially things like constipation, depression, directly linked often to dehydration. And then I would look at sleep. Anything that puts your body under a tremendous amount of stress is going to affect sleep. So you can always be like, hey, water probably is in there. So I'd just be asking about a lot of their physical symptoms that they're noticing, or if they keep bringing up different physical symptoms, I would definitely ask. Probably one of my first questions would be about how much water do you get to drink in the day? And then again, just as an experiment, could you try drinking a little more and see? Just notice. Because oftentimes it will go away, but you just don't notice. Like, oh, you don't make that connection of like, oh, I drank more water and now I feel better. And so low energy will be one.
Mm.
They'll feel lethargic and just not, they just don't feel like they can go. So if those things are coming up, my very first place that I would look is hydration, because it is so crucial. And even being a little bit dehydrated actually has a lot of negative effects on us. And so, yeah, if those are things they're noticing, I would help them to make that connection of like, why don't you drink a little more water and see? I just have to say, my son, the second week out, and he was the one I felt like was most prepared, got so sick.
Mm.
And when I said, went through the checklist, and then I said, how much water are you drinking? It was like, he not drinking because he didn't want to carry it. And I was like, honey, you are
Right.
dehydrated. A full day of drinking water. And he was like a new human. And he's like, I can't believe water makes that big of a difference.
Yeah.
So it does. Water makes that big of a difference.
Yeah, we've seen massive changes, just massive impact with these missionaries, both physically and emotionally, with
Yeah.
hydration, such a simple solution and so many things that get in the way.
I also feel like it's really comforting to me and also to point out to them, people live where you are and people need these things that we're talking about. Somehow they are living and they're getting water, they're having their needs met. So what are the
Right.
people doing where you
Right.
live? May not be what you do at home or the people around you
Mhm.
do, but maybe take on the customs of the people there because they're living and thriving where they are. So, yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing how often we shut ourselves down just because it's not familiar? Yeah,
Yeah.
my gosh. I love that's a really great point. And that point probably is relevant to the next one as well, which is nutrition. And I mean,
Yeah.
Sandy, we could talk about nutrition for a decade here. Dominantly, though, we want to kind of focus on what are your top three? Let's go with top three because we really could take nutrition forever. What are your top three ideas for our missionaries when it comes to like protein consumption and just
Yeah.
dialing into being able to make sure they have some level of control over their nutrition?
Okay. Again, we're looking at patterns. And so we want to just set some good patterns with your body. So you think of it like, to use a missionary term, we're building a relationship of trust with our body. And so your body needs to know that it can depend on getting getting food each day. Really day to day what that looks like isn't as important as that you're getting something in you every day and not skipping meals and being super sporadic in your nutrition, that you have a routine of like, we eat
Mm.
throughout the day, enough calories. So
Consistent.
calories are going to be huge. So you want to be able to get plenty of calories throughout the day. And in some missions that definitely takes planning and some forethought, because you may get served one meal a day, but that means you're responsible for the other meals that you're getting. And sometimes you don't even get that one meal, and then you're responsible for all your meals. And so maybe again, ask questions, lots of questions. Like, what does your day look like? What's available? Like, how much money do you have to spend on food? Like, really just ask the questions. And then I would go to what you just said, Natty, is protein. I always say protein and produce. Those are going to be my top two focuses. And so, where you can, you're going to get protein that you can take with you or that you can have at your house. So, that's easy for you to get. And I would say, most countries, again, the people live there, they're eating those things in some form. And so, maybe you need to change the protein that you traditionally ate at home and switch it out for a different protein that they're eating where they are. But protein is going to serve you mostly in the morning, especially because it's going to stabilize their blood sugar, which is going to help them the rest of the
Mm.
day. And so if they can get in a protein breakfast, and that probably would be the thing that I would spend the most time on, is just breakfast. Like, let's nail breakfast, make sure we got that down. I do know a lot of teenagers, young adults don't like to eat breakfast. And so when they do eat breakfast, meaning the first time they eat, and I would make that is hopefully not before they leave their house at 10 a.m. And so encourage them. And if they haven't, again, patterns. So move it up just a little bit so that we're not like pushing it back to 2 in the afternoon as our first meal, so that we have
Right.
the energy when we need the energy. And so, yeah, and then protein is the
Yeah.
focus, produce, whatever that looks like, fruit or vegetable. And that again will be another source of hydration for them. So back to hydration, your food serves as something that hydrates. So fruits, and especially fruits, but vegetables too, hydrate your body. And if you actually aren't eating those fruits and vegetables, you're not holding on to the hydration in your body. So that would be something also to consider with hydration.
I love the simplicity of the ability to approach this. Even just, guys, we're going to focus on one meal, right?
Yeah.
First time you eat during the day. Let's focus on that. And let's make sure you're getting what you need with that one meal. Here's something that I run into with missionaries all the time is they leave their apartment with a schedule. And
Mhm.
within a couple of hours, that schedule is completely disrupted, right? Appointments get scheduled, appointments get canceled, appointments get rescheduled. And often even their meals, this happens with their meals, and then they're out and about and they don't have any food with them.
Yeah.
What's something that they could do to take control of just always knowing that there is something for them to eat?
So preparation day could be a day that they are thinking of these things and making a plan for the week, or whenever that is that they go to the grocery store, it's probably that day. And they, if they can start thinking of things that they can take with them on the doors for those. I mean, in the States, it's a lot easier because they can take things like bars and things. When we get into foreign countries, it might get a little trickier. And I know because of my foreign missionaries that they can put things in little baggies and put them in their bag to eat while they're out and about. It's going to be, and again, like you were saying, Natty, when they can start to connect, like, oh, I actually feel better when I'm eating these
Right.
things, it will make a difference. So again, I would just approach it as an experiment. Like, hey, what things can you make quickly in the morning, just throw in a bag? They don't need to prepare something. It can be a couple pieces of fruit or a baggie with some carrots in it or something. It doesn't have to be huge, some almonds, like anything to keep them going in the day, keep their body running, and they can start to eat those things um, when they get in a bind, or even just when they're walking in the street. I know that's bad manners in some countries where it's not. They should take the opportunity to make sure that they're fueling throughout the day. I know a lot of these guys you talked about, they're athletes and they're used to moving and they're used to like fueling and doing these things. And maybe a mission doesn't feel like they're expending the same amount of energy, and so they're not feeling like they
Mm.
need to eat as much. And that's just not true because our most of our metabolism is spent in our brain, and they're using a tremendous amount of brain power their entire mission. And so they need to be
Right.
able to fuel that, or they will start having not being able to think clearly and getting brain fog and feeling overwhelmed very easily. And all of those things typically are due to blood sugar and not being able to maintain enough calories to like do everything they need to do in a day.
Right. Yeah, it's unbelievable how impactful these simple things are. Sleep, hydration, nutrition. They're game changing for these missionaries both physically and emotionally. And we get so caught up that emotional health, physical health, and really, like, I cannot reiterate enough and reemphasize enough how much these things are connected. So love
Yeah.
all of the ideas here. Let's dive into movement. This one's huge. We're seeing so many missionaries feeling a little bit stuck, a little bit sedentary. One companion wants to move, one companion doesn't want to move, one companion wants to exercise, one companion doesn't. The mission changes. We start using time for Zoom. There's no time to work out. There's no space to work out. I can't leave my apartment. I've heard it all. And I know you're the genius of coming up with movement strategies irregardless. So walk us through some ideas here that can let us move no matter what. What are some ideas we can do?
Yeah. So I I know that a lot of missionaries or some missionaries may have an aversion to like exercise and they don't want to exercise and their companion does and they have this a lot of time and it can be a conflict between the two. Um, and we're all meant to move. We're born movers. It's just finding the way we
Mm.
like to move. So if your missionary is one that traditionally has not liked to exercise or isn't into sports or doing those things, again, ask questions because there are things, and you probably, as their moms, already know ways that they do enjoy actually moving their body. So let's work with what they already know and what they already love and find ways to do that intentionally. The intentionality of it is actually what makes it beneficial to us. And so we all move all the time. And when we start thinking about the movement, it changes. And the reason why is because we get out of our head and into our body, which that's where all those benefits come from. And so if it's that you're moving, doing stretches and yoga, but you're very like intuitive and into your body, you will see benefits, mental, emotional. And that's what we need for those missionaries to exercise for, is for the emotional benefits that come from that. And so we need to move this into their body and start thinking about their body. And you can do that in any space. I do know they also need some intensity, some of these missionaries, and some can get really creative. And there are so many ways to do that and ways that we as their moms can help them to do that. So if your missionary is getting ready to leave, or if you have the ability to send them things, some simple bands, a jump rope could be like a jump rope for me was a lifesaver. So jump rope, you can do a yoga ball, you can do all kinds of different really simple things that lay flat in a suitcase that you can do tons of workouts that are really hard. Body weight workouts will do the trick. Time, they don't have to work out for a long time, they don't have time. And so I always say you can work out hard or you can work out long, but you can't work out hard and long. We need them to work out hard.
Right.
And so
Right.
so it's fine that they can't do their 2 hours at the gym or whatever they're training. They need to work out so hard that in 10 minutes they're done, that they have nothing left. And you
Yeah.
can do that with your body. So yeah, jumping jacks, sit ups, push ups, all the body weight things. Um, but really the key and is finding what they like, and this could even be a fun challenge for a companion. Like if you have a companion that does not like to exercise, ask questions like, how do you like to move? Or can we find ways? Can we try new ways to see, like, do you like this? Could we try this? And um, like as a companion, maybe you can help them to find ways that work for them that are outside of how you usually like to exercise, but also would be of benefit to you. Um, could be like some a challenge that you could take on for them. As moms, I would just encourage and ask so many questions and remind them of the purpose of this exercise is to move their body, to be in tune with their body, to feel like what's going on in their body so that they can have a break from all the brain activity that's going on. And if you can speak that to them, like, hey, you're doing it, like just breathing and feeling that breath in your body is serving the purpose of movement, and that might be enough for you right now, then that's good.
Yeah. I know. I love that we keep coming back to questions because moms, we got to get curious. There can be 12,000 concerns around movement. I don't like to move. I'm on the third floor, so I can't jump. I can't go outside because it's not safe. It's against mission rules for me to leave without my companion. My companion doesn't want to leave. We have a Zoom call coming up. I've heard so many things. And so a lot of times as moms, we take in all of this feedback and we're like, oh, well, man, my missionary can't move. There's always something. There's always something. Even if it's just for 3 minutes, there's always something. And
Yeah.
I know Sandy has some pretty creative workout ideas. Maybe we'll be able to convince her to give us a few that we can stick on here as a link for people to look at
I would
that they
love
could
that.
send their kids if they are looking for like, what can I do, right? So
Yeah.
maybe we can talk you into that, Sandy, for a little extra help. But man, so much important things here. Sleep, hydration, nutrition, movement. It's affecting the physical body. It is having massive impact on the emotional wellness. Sandy, we appreciate you taking time and energy out of your life to join us with this. So much good happening. Any final words of wisdom that you'd share before we sign off for today?
I would just say, just like I would to your missionaries, that moms are amazing. It would make me cry. Like the moms, I know you are where your heart is and that you're trying so hard, and I'm sorry if your missionary is struggling. And I know that they are exactly where they're supposed to be, and that is an opportunity for us to learn how to be such good disciples of Jesus Christ and how to support his army as they go out and preach his gospel. And that all of this, no matter what they're going through, is an opportunity for them to learn and grow. And that's what they're doing. They're becoming exactly who they need to become. And you get to be a part of that. And it's such a privilege for me to be a part of your journey. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sandy. We appreciate you. All right, everyone. We'll see you next time.